The virus was engineered in a lab. Viral outbreaks have been our reality for a long time. But as we got more experience and our technology developed, we started to predict dangerous outcomes. For decades, several labs over the world have been working with viruses. They examine past outbreaks and foresee possible combinations that a virus can threaten human health with computer simulations and eliminate the possible consequences of those combinations. Then, in December 2019, a new virus emerged in Wuhan, China, and quickly spread to dozens of countries. Our information was limited and hard to increase because of the evolving entity of the virus. We had fundamental knowledge. Bats were the source of outbreaks like Ebola, rabies, and Nipah, so we knew from past experiences that bats were suspicious. But we didn't exactly know how and why the virus emerged, and various theories were suggested. The most common ones we stumbled onto were about the virus being engineered to reduce the human population.
My question is, have you seen anything at this point that gives you a high degree of confidence that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was the origin of this virus?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
We dug deep into how accurate these theories are on a scientific basis, and here's what we found. A virus at its core is simple. It reproduces by injecting its genetic material into a cell. While doing this, it harms the cell, leaving the organism vulnerable. The virus structure is simply a genetic material, either RNA or DNA, covered by a protein coat. In coronavirus's case, the genetic material is RNA and the protein coat has spike proteins on it. These spike proteins are the part that the coronavirus uses to reproduce. The spike protein has two parts, the receptor binding domain, aka the RBD, and the cleavage side. The RBD grabs the cell and the cleavage side opens the cell to infect it. What makes SARS-CoV-2 so effective is a mutation in its RBD. The mutation makes it bound to the ACE2 protein in humans surprisingly effective. We're saying surprisingly because none of the existing computer simulations used in labs identify this as an optimal bonding way. So if a virus was to be engineered, this variation would not be the call the people would make. There is another way to examine this. By phylogenetic analysis, scientists can see the evolutionary path of a certain organism.
If humans did a certain change in the laboratory to the genome, then there should be a really striking difference between these gradual evolutionary sequences. For instance, if you cut out and paste some foreign genome sequence into the coronavirus genome, then you would really recognize it just very, very soon, which is not the case. So that tells us that phylogenetic tree building tells us that it's a natural evolution that we are facing for these viruses, and it acquired features that can infect human cells.
This evidence shows us that it probably evolved through natural selection. Saying this, however, is not enough to clarify its origin because it leaves us with three possibilities to examine. 1. Intermediate host. It is possible for a virus in a bat population to infect an intermediate host and mutate there before infecting a human.
When we find this animal and when we show the virus in this animal, then we can exactly say that yes, it's evolved from bat to this animal and then from this animal to the human being.
We're not sure what that host is, but pangolins are our best guess. 2. Mutation in human. The virus in a bat population could have infected humans before until it evolved in a way to harm people and show symptoms. It could have circulated in human populations for a long time. 3. Lab leak. This has happened before with SARS, and people have suggested that this might be the case for the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The lab works on a virus that has been in bat populations called RATG13. There have been predictions that this virus escaped from this lab and mutated to SARS-CoV-2. However, RATG13 and SARS-CoV-2 come from a common ancestor, meaning they are cousins. It makes no sense to say a virus's cousin is also its ancestor in evolutionary terms. The World Health Organization has recently finished its research in Wuhan Institute of Virology and could not find evidence suggesting a lab leak. The fact that who could not find anything doesn't necessarily suggest a certainty, but highlights that it's very, very unlikely that a lab leak took place. In retrospect, the claim that the virus was engineered doesn't seem to be the case for COVID-19.